Hey guys, my name is Clyde, and today we are going to talk about the latest news in World of Warships. I haven't really dabbled very deeply, or delved very deeply, perhaps is a better term, into what's been going on with all of the drama, the CCs leaving, the argument over loot boxes, the Missouri debacle. I haven't gotten into any of this stuff. We've talked about it a little bit on stream, and I do have opinions. However, I've wanted to focus most of my content on the game. Well, today I think Wargaming put out a very thoroughly written message to the community about how they want to address some of the issues they've been observing. And I think it's probably worth taking a few minutes to go over it. So without further ado, I'd like to get into that, and we will continue from there. All right, well, our top story today is centered on this message that was posted to the forums. There was a message for NA, for EU, and for Asia servers. I'm kind of curious if they're all identical, but I haven't gone to check that. It basically starts with an apology and then talks about the ways that World of Warships, the Wargaming community here, is going to move forward with interacting with the players in the game. It starts off here in this first paragraph. It says, lately, a lot of you have been upset with various incidents, our decisions, as well as a general state of things in the game and community. Before we continue, we want to apologize to all of you, the players, content creators, moderators, testers, and other volunteers, to those who support us and those who are disappointed with us. Everything that happens within the game and our community is our responsibility, and we're sorry that we let the situation come to its current state. Now, we've gotten a lot of apologies from Wargaming lately, and you know, again, like I said in the intro, I haven't really been interested in getting into some of this more fighty type content. You know, this sounds, again, like an apology. But down below, they outline a plan and a list of things they're going to do over the coming time here. We want to take this opportunity to be more transparent about how we will take actions and improve our internal processes and our relationship with you. It'll be a long read. You will see items of different scales and with different times required to see results. No doubt more news and announcements will follow, so please don't treat this as a final plan and the ultimate solution to everything. Instead, please treat it as a list of things we're currently working on and a way to show our intentions to the game community a better place. Also, please note this is not comprehensive, as many other measures are revolving around internal processes. In other words, hey, we're going to hit the big ticket items here. There's probably something that somebody reading this post is going to be upset about that isn't covered here. Please know that this is not the complete list of everything we're working on. Okay, monetization. World of Warships is a free-to-play title with a games-as-a-service concept with substantial monthly updates and a constant evolutionary cycle. To support this model, we rely on a multitude of monetization tactics that are considered to be standard practice in the industry. While we believe it's unreasonable to expect to discuss our monetization strategies in all but the most general terms, this is business-critical information, we do understand that there are specific details that are a cause for concern for some of you, and we will try to address them as best we can below. So when we talk about business critical information, this is actually a business term that says this is information that is obviously critical to our business. It's information that we are not allowed to share. It might give our competitors an advantage. It might provide some insight into how the company is running. And there's going to be information like that Wargaming cannot and honestly should not share with us. So essentially what they're saying is we charge people money to play our game. And there's a lot of ways that we can play it. If you play it in a fully free mode, somebody else is playing it in a non-free mode. Somebody is whaling to make it cheaper or free for players who spend less money. And they say we're using industry standard practices there. And I think they are. You know, I don't love loot boxes, you know, and there's been legal action taken, particularly in Europe, to try to reduce those, because if you can't buy a lottery ticket, why should you be able to gamble in a video game? I think that's a logical argument that they're making, and I hope that takes hold and spreads across the globe. That said, I understand that they're going to charge us for some of us for the game, and that's opt-in. And that they're using things that are considered normal. You know, loot boxes are in a lot of games, and they suck in every game they're in. But let's talk about them here. So random mechanics as a business. Oops, there we go. We always follow the laws and comply with new regulations as they appear. Now, this is very, very much a business like, look, everything we're doing is legal. You don't have to like it, but it is legal. I don't have to like that message, but it's a fair one, I think. Therefore, our position on containers and random bundles is always consistent with government's decisions on this matter and will continue to do so, or will keep being so. In some cases, we'll even try to work ahead of industry practices. My guess is those are cases where looming legal action is getting ready to change the landscape there, and they just want to make sure that their game is ready to go ahead of the laws changing, right? I wouldn't read too much into that. We are aware that there are slowly progressing trends to regulate the digital space more and more to catch up with technical solutions and business models built on them. With that in mind, we appreciate your feedback and commit to the following. From now on, for all new ships, if they are distributed via random containers or via containers or random bundles, there will be an alternative way to obtain them. That's good news. That wasn't always something they've been saying. Now, of course, we'll wait and see if this actually happens, but if there's always an alternative way, it means you can know how much that boat's going to cost you. Methods may vary and may include time gating, in other words, early access or time delayed offers, direct purchases, including in-game activities. That is totally a thing that we've seen Wargaming use in the past. Things like the dockyard, right, is a perfect example of that. You can whale your way into the dockyard right now. Would just spend doubloons from the very beginning, buy all of the phases and get a ship right now, or you can play a bunch of missions and then buy the last couple of phases, because you have to buy a couple at least, or a few. I can't remember the number right now. But that kind of lets whales get the ships faster, right? And I think time gating is a reasonable thing. They want to encourage people to use the random mechanics. However, if you can wait, and I know that I wait a long time to get ships pretty frequently. Then you'll be able to get the ships in some alternative way without random chance. That's good news. I hope that this comes out and is relatively accepted by the community, and I hope that it is. I hope that it comes through and it seems fairly equitable. The costs seem fair. We can expect that Wargaming is going to, manipulate and manage the random chances on the boxes, but the next bullet point here is going to help cover that. It says drop rates. We plan to publish all drop rates for all containers and random bundles and are already working on it. It'll take some time, but our hard commitment is that it will happen over the course of the year. There is a huge design stroke, development stroke, testing stroke, updated internal documentation stroke, and then publishing stroke before any software function can come to the community. That's my words, not theirs, but I also work in the software industry, and it takes a while to make a change, to make sure it's good enough to go public, and then to put it out on the public accessed servers. So, a change like this is going to involve a bunch of new code, I'm sure, but I think this is a change we can all be excited about. I want to know what the drop rates are for everything. Especially as a kind of a software nerd, I'm really interested in the algorithm they're choosing to select the random boat I'm getting. When there's the short list, right? That's a two-step algorithm. That's kind of interesting to know. We saw the short list last Christmas. So anyway, drop rates being published, this is a good thing. Return of Missouri. The initial concept of the event was perceived negatively, and we should have known better. The case was a lesson learned for us, and we added an alternative way to purchase the ship. We're also addressing the situation with the ship's earnings to make sure that those who owned Missouri before 007 will, on average, not receive less credits. We're talking about language translation. Before the changes to the ship's economics. We're grateful for the battles you played. These helped us to collect sufficient data. This amount of data allows us to add a 10% bonus to the Special Missouri combat mission from 20% to 30%. Additionally, we will issue appropriate amounts of credits to all the affected players as a sign of appreciation. Details will be published in the devlog separately. So Missouri's going to get a little bit better. We're going to get this mission is going to increase from 20% to 30% bonus for those of us who've had the Missouri before. I am one of these players. I am a player that has had the Missouri for a long time. I got it for free XP back in the day when it was real cheap and easy to get. 20% to 30% on the mission is great. I still have some trepidation that I think that mission will go away. elite modules, the mega modules for tier 10 ships, was a mission that was perpetual, and then it went away. That said, this is a step in the right direction, and I just don't know if that mission is going to truly be perpetual. I think I've heard a lot of the reasons why Missouri came out the way it did. I'm not going to cover them here. There's some logical, technical reason for each of the suggestions that the communities had not being the one they went with. Maybe they should have gone with one anyway, and just kind of dealt with it. But at this point, we're in mission mode and we're moving forward on this. So for those of you who got a new Missouri, I guess congratulations. I hope that you're happy with the amount of credits that it cost you. For those of us that have the old Missouri, the mission's better now. I still don't believe that this is fully multiplicative the way that we want it to be, but they've increased it a little bit. I'm also one of those players who's had the Missouri forever, and I don't really play it much. Now, I'm a destroyer main, and the community at large generally knows that the Iowa has a much stronger heel and just as good a gun ballistics, and that the radar on the Missouri is kind of too short to be useful anyway. So, listen, I don't want to tell you guys, oh, complaining about the Missouri is a bad thing, because it's not. It's fine. If you guys really want the Missouri, maybe you're a Missouri main, it's your favorite ship, hey, more power to you. And if that's the case, you probably have a lot of credits. But, at the end of the day, for me, the impact of the Missouri change isn't significant. That said, I don't like the possibility of that mission going away in the future. So for me, this one's a wait and see. We're going to keep one. The summer sale. Unfortunately, we made a translation mistake in a sensitive description. We fixed it ASAP. And to protect you from such mistakes in the future, we will add additional checks and approvals in our internal processes. If anything like that happens again, we will offer refunds to all of the affected players. We did it before, and we will do it again to make sure that you are compensated. We will also pay more attention to the positioning of such events. For many of you, for example, many of you stated the term sale, suggested direct discounts on in-game items. This is good. Sale is a bad word for what the summer sale was, where it was just a bunch of random loot boxes. That was not a sale. I agree with that. The translation error is a thing. Sea Lord Mountbatten posted a video a few weeks ago where he noticed that there was a job posting shortly after that debacle for an English teacher who can speak Russian and is trained to teach Russian students how to speak English internally at Wargaming. So I believe they are genuinely working on this language barrier and that it is genuinely difficult. I have a minor in a foreign language that I am not very good at from college, and it is hard, and it's a much easier language to learn than English is for a Russian speaker or vice versa. So yeah, I think this is a good change. I want them to understand when they're using the word sale that it needs to be a sale, and I'm hoping that this is a positive thing. Age ratings. This is again about loot boxes and randomization, gambling, if you will. Wargambling is a nickname they've earned over the last little while. We've added some disclaimers about in-game purchases and random items in our PEGI ratings. We're in touch with other rating organizations, so they're going to try to make sure that the game is legally and correctly rated wherever it is available. I think this is probably the least important thing on this list to me, but that's because I'm not a kid and I don't have kids who are playing this game. They do make a comment in here that our game is not that popular among minors. This is a game, the average player age, Wargaming Evans said on the last stream was 40 or 45, I think is what he said, 45 years old. This is a game, it's about World War II. These are the same people who watch the History Channel and watch World War II documentaries all the time. These are your dads, they're me. I'm not 45 yet, but I'm closer than you probably think. So, there's a lot of older players here. And so Wargaming says, look, it's true, our game is available to minors, and so we want to make sure our rating is consistent with the rules. But they're not going, this particular bullet doesn't say they're going to make any changes to what the content of the game is. They talked about that up here with random mechanics where they're saying we're going to stay legal, but that's about all they said. So we can expect the random mechanics to stick around, but we can expect a little more information. The drop rates being published, that's good. Summer sale stuff, we don't want to advertise random boxes as a sale. So yeah, I think this is generally, I like this section. One of the main topics we want to address is how your feedback influences the game. Regrettably, it was not always clear how we use certain types of feedback and where it fits into our decision-making process. We've always taken it into account, but looking back, we see that in some cases it was not balanced well enough against equally important sources of information, large volumes of data, and the team's creative vision for the game. We want to change this situation and make sure we pay more direct attention to your suggestions and opinions, while also giving you insight into how the decisions are made, things that we are considering and evaluating right now. That's the follow-on bullet list there. So they take our feedback and it does get used, is what they're telling us here. I believe that's probably true, but they also have a huge amount of data. Wargaming has constantly said that they're making their decisions based on data. I think it's a very data-driven organization internally. And then secondly, and they mention it here, which is good that they kind of came out and mentioned both of these items, the team's creative vision of the game. I would kind of stretch creative vision of the game a little bit to say profitable vision as well. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, these jerks, they just want our money. Of course they do. They're a business, and we understand that. We're adults. We go to work to get paid too. I don't go to work because... I do go to work sometimes because it's fun, but other days I go to work just to get paid. It's just one of those things, right? And so what they're going to try to do here, I think, is clarify in this next section a little bit about what user feedback is for, how they use it, and it sounds like they want to give us a little bit more of a voice. Now, I don't expect this is largely going to change the way that our feedback is taken in, but I think we might get a little more insight into how our feedback is taken in. So let's continue reading and see what we see here. More reaction to feedback on ship balance. We know that there are several ships you want to be addressed, and we'd like to confirm balance changes are planned for Zao, Petropavlovsk, and FDR in 1010. Moving forward, we will try to increase the promptness of addressing released ships in a similar way. And when it is not possible, for example, changing a ship will move it out of the interval of normal performance, we will put more effort into giving you insights and explaining our reasoning. Okay, so this section is super important to me because the Zao is mentioned. Zao is my first tier 10. I love this boat, and we have all known for a long time that Zao was not a very competitive ship, probably for the last 3 years at least. I think Zao's an okay boat, but I think it needs some stuff to be competitive. Petropavlovsk, we know, is a very powerful ship. It's obviously a little too strong, and we're seeing that in the way that it's being treated when we go into competitive modes. There's always Petros in there. FDR, also very overpowered. Now, there's a difference between Zao, Petropavlovsk, and FDR. I'm super stoked about a Zao buff. I'm a little trepidatious about a Petro nerf, but those are both tech tree ships. Those are tech line ships that you can just grind and unlock, and we know that those are affectable. FDR is probably one of the first in a new batch of ships that are premiums or freemiums or coal boats or steel boats or whatever, special ships, where it does say now that we could balance this ship in the future. Okay, this is a big topic, and I'm going to talk about it briefly. When we talk about balancing a ship in the future, this is a good thing for the Wargaming company when they think about game balance, because they can adjust ships as they move forward to make sure that nothing becomes runaway overpowered. The old system, of course, was to realize that a ship was overpowered, but since people paid money for it, they would not modify it, and they would just take it out of the game, no longer make it available, and through account attrition and everything, make it more rare. Players like me who've been playing since 2015, I can trot out my Gremiashi anytime I want. I can bring out other ships that aren't available in the game anymore. But, there's a bunch of them. Julius Asari. We can bring those ships out into the game and play them because we're still active and everything. But through scarcity, they become less of an impact on the game because some people will just quit playing, right? And then we won't see them again. And new players will be unable to get the ships. So Zao and Petro... Definitely, I'm a fan of nerfing Petro just a tiny bit and buffing Zao just a tiny bit. FDR is a little bit different, right? We look at that. We got that ship. I was talking to Scott on my wingman today. He said, I got that ship because it's overpowered. I do not want them to make it not overpowered. It was hard to get the resources to buy that ship, So I've got mixed feelings here. While I really want them to look at existing ships, particularly ships that have been in the game for a long time, and continue to make them competitive, I don't love the idea of them adjusting ships that we as the community view as premium. And that's something that Wargaming views differently, right? Coal boats they think of as free boats. Or steel boats or whatever. Those are boats you didn't pay money for. And of course now even the ones you pay money for can be balanced. So be aware of that as we go forward. That doesn't always mean ships will be nerfed. It could mean a ship will be buffed in the future. There are a lot of premium ships, like hundreds it feels like, of previous ships, or at least 800, that we could go back and look at and say, yeah, that boat didn't really come out very good. We should talk to them about buffing that boat. I think the intent, of course, is most there's more fervor to upgrade ships that have been in the game for a long time, but I'm sorry, that are at tiers that are used in competitive is what I meant to say. So like if tier 10, we're going to care a lot more about balancing tier 10 ships, or whatever tiers are common in ranked 6, 7, 8, 9, that kind of stuff. Anyway, lots of thoughts I think to be had there. I'd be curious about your guys' thoughts. Again, keep them respectful, and let's have some discussion, some dialogue down in the comments below. Aircraft carriers. Despite many other things happening in the game, we haven't forgotten that there are still questions to be answered regarding CVs. We've implemented a lot of changes to this class since the rework, but we acknowledge more changes may be needed. CV spotting is a good example. We conducted several tests before and did not find a good, adequate way to address it. This does not mean we will not continue to improve it. It's not something that can be done quickly. Please keep that in mind. Another common question is regarding odd tier terriers. Terriers, those are little dogs. These are warships. Carriers, which were previously mentioned as support CVs. Right now, they are in early prototyping stage, development document concepts. We want to honestly tell you they are not to be expected in 22. Okay, carriers. Listen, there's a lot of discussion about carriers. If you can imagine, Wargaming doesn't want to put out another change to carriers that will be received poorly. So they're going to want to make their changes with intention and hopefully get them right the first time. And that's going to take design, it's going to take data, it's going to take all of their input sources, one of which could be the community. And I think they're talking about this. CV spotting, we know, is very powerful. There's that infamous Flamu video from a couple years ago where they posted a graph of battle influence, and carriers are way up at the top, somewhere kind of at the maybe upper third or half is destroyers, and then way down here is cruisers and battleships. Well, why do carriers have such an influence on the game? Because they go 200 knots, they can spot everything, they can attack everything from relative safety. Now, I say that, but I'm actually not super anti-carrier. I want aircraft carriers in the game. I just want their impact on the game to be equivalent, or at least close to equivalent to other ships, and for them to have some weakness that makes there be a reason you want to take the other boats. So anyway, this message to me is we're going to keep working on carriers. I didn't know they were thinking about tier 5, tier 7, tier 9 carriers. I think it'd be great to have those ships back in the game, but it says here they're writing down their ideas, and we're not going to see that next year. New gameplay experiences. We keep evolving the game by introducing new modes and mechanics, both fiction and history based. In 10.8, we brought out convoys. We will keep exploring new game modes in the future. It's one of our priorities. Permanent types, expanding permanent types of battles, primarily random battles, with new modes is also one of the long-term goals to keep the game fresh. When they talk about permanent types of battles, they're talking about standard battle, the one with the 3 caps, epicenter, that kind of stuff. I think inside this stuff, or inside our existing experience. However, creating a mode suitable not just for a short gaming period, but for a permanent presence with high replayability is a much bigger challenge, and it takes many more tries and effort. Again, they want to get it right? They want to come out and say, this is a new game type or whatever, and it's going to be in the game for a long time. You're gonna love it, and they want us to love it. They do, because they want us to show up and give them our money and stuff. For me, World of Warships is a very complex game with a lot of variables. I'm not too worried about them adding new modes. New modes to me are not super appealing, but I know there are a lot of players who care about that kind of stuff. I shouldn't say they're not appealing. I should say they're not like required for my happiness. But I know that a lot of you guys are really into like the operations. You're really into this convoy mode. You're going to be super excited about all this stuff being in the game. So it sounds like that's something they're still interested in as well, and we can expect to see some more work on that. Maps. This is one I've heard a lot about lately. We've slowed down adding new maps to the game recently because we've been focused on the game's visuals in general, updated water effects and all this other stuff, as well as introducing the underwater world that they're talking about, and that's of course for our submarine added to the game. That said, in 2022, at least one new map will be released. Not a big number, but that's cool that they're putting it on the list. And another one has some chance to make it in time. Spoiler, we're going to add a new mechanic. We're going to try to add a new mechanic with the first one of these maps not previously used in the game. So in addition to a new map, we're going to get perhaps a new game mechanic, which kind of goes with that new gameplay experiences section up above. I'm interested in this. I like new maps. One of the things that I often think about is like League of Legends, for example, has exactly one map that they use in pretty much every single game. There are other modes that have other maps, but I can't remember what it's called, but there's the map with, you know, top, mid, and bot, where every battle is fought on the same map, and that allows for tactics and strategies to really be developed for those maps. I do like the idea of WoW's adding some new maps for us, so I'll be looking forward to these. But to me, it's not critical because I think there's so many variables in a game of World of Warships that, you know, battles are always exciting unless they're an absolute smash of one team by the other. Operations, CV rework broke a lot of stuff, is what they're trying to say here. It broke a lot of the AI-related internal tools, so they had a bunch of stuff that basically drove carriers around in operations, and then they changed CV rework to where carriers are unrecognizable from what they used to be. So a lot of their internal tools are broken. Right now we're in the process of removing this obstacle. It's been worked on for many reasons, not just for the sake of operations. One of the benefits we will have when this project is done is that they'll be able to return some of the old operations in 22. That's cool. I'd like to see some of those come back. Some of those were really fun. My clan, I know, had a good time trying to 5-star those things. So obviously something about their AI tools for operations got busted up here by the CV rework, and because PvE was not as popular as PvP, they haven't focused on that. I'm glad to see that it's making its way onto the table again. There are plenty of other things we're interested in, a lot of them being worked on for different stages of the development. We have not forgotten about such things. There's some old ship models that are going to be updated. Tier 4 CV tuning, Huron, West Virginia showing up this year and next year, respectively. Addressing the chat system. Please address the chat system. Terrible. Improvements for ranked battles and many other small and not so small changes. Getting better. Comms. We are a large distributed team of over 500 people working across more than 4 countries, coming from all walks of life. Culturally varied and hindered severely by the pandemic from traveling to see each other in person. Be able to align on certain matters. We are bound to have organizational challenges in the realm of communication. However, these internal challenges should not be visible, much less influence the player experience. Improving communications is a never-ending process which needs to be evolutionary, not revolutionary. So you'll see those improvements incrementally over time in many areas rather than as one-time institutional overnight change. But we want to address a few specific points you pointed out in this area. So comms are hard. This is true. I work for a very, very large organization, and comms are hard. I do like the comment here where they said the players should never even know about this. This should not even be a concern. Players should be talking about tactics, strategy, camos, captain builds, that kind of stuff. Whereas instead, players are worried about the internal communications of some business. So I hope that they can get to that point. I'd love to get to a point where we don't have any problems with how they're running things over here because we're busy playing and thinking about World of Warships. That would be ideal to me. The community contributor program, when we created the community contributor program, our goal was to help talented folks interested in our game create content and grow their channels. Right now, it's clear that a lot of things in the program do not work as they should, which leads to frustration and failed expectations, even though other parts are running very well. We will update the program both in terms of rules and the way we work with it internally. We expect to have some sort of internal plan and first action points ready in the second half of September, and then proceed with these changes during this autumn. So the CC program is really about what they call in media earned value. Wargaming wants CCs to go make wargaming popular. They want people like me to make videos. I'm not a CC, but they want creators, content creators, whether they're in the program or not, to go out there and to create earned media or earned value, earned media for their company so that they don't have to advertise it as much. That is what the community contributor program is for. It's changed a lot over the years, and Jingles had some stuff he said a long time, right as he was leaving the program. He said, look, those guys used to need us to make this game popular. Now it's popular. And they used to need us to give them feedback to fix stuff. Now they need that feedback less or differently. I think what this is going to wind up being is they're going to restructure what they think the community contributor program is, and more reasonably set our expectations for what it means to be a CC, what kind of influence you're going to have on the game, and stuff like that. Now, that means probably that CCs of today are going to have less power and influence than CCs of days of yore, and a lot of those CCs of yore have quit the program. That is absolutely their prerogative, and I can understand why they would have done that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to clarify what this program is for. They're going to probably make some things better for the CCs, and then hopefully we'll just have less friction on this topic. But that's my expectation, is the CCs are not going to go back to having the influence that they have back in the day, but we are going to see a clearer description of what the CC program is, and so that way content creators like me who are not CCs, when they look at that program, they'll know what they're getting themselves into. The future of the game. We'd like to offer you a deeper look into the future of the game. Right now we have dev blogs where we basically announce everything that comes to Super Test, and the Waterline series, which we do quarterly with updates. To complement these and expand the horizon of events, we want to share a general roadmap with you of what you can expect to see in World of Warships in the far future. It'll give you an idea of what we want to focus on, but please keep in mind that things can and will change. At the same time, we want to show you the progress World of Warships achieves. The game evolves a lot every year, and it will be easier for you to follow what we are doing. I don't know if I think this is a good idea. Again, working in the software industry, things do change a lot, and I think the player base right now has a hard time understanding that. Things change. Things are harder than you thought. Testing tells you you've got a critical problem, and thus this can't come out right now. Designs fail. There's so many technical challenges with this kind of stuff, but this is really a kind of an interesting thing. They're going to tell us right now in the dev blog what's going on. They're going to give us Waterline updates, but if they're actually going to show us a development roadmap and then keep us in mind with what's coming up a year from now, 2 years from now, and then actually try to hit those dates, this is a huge amount of transparency. As a community, I think it's going to be really incumbent upon us to understand that development is challenging and that these things could be, it's going to oscillate wildly at the end, right? If you think of, this, I'll use this little stick here, back scratcher is what it is, as a thing. If we have a small adjustment in course here, it's a big adjustment in course out on this end, right? This is a stupid analogy, but long story short, if we're going to see a lot of things on that calendar that come and go, that oscillate off, that go off the schedule, that come back to the schedule, that are late because of the nature of software development. This is pretty aggressive in terms of transparency from Wargaming. I'm curious what it's going to look like. I have no idea. My guess is they'll protect more information than I think they're going to protect right now. But they also want to, it says here, they also want to show you the progress that we achieve. They want to brag on themselves, and they should. They should absolutely say, look back a year and look at all the wonderful things we've accomplished, and there should be some wonderful things there. So I'm hopeful on this. I think it's pretty risky of them to talk about future events farther in the future than just 1 or 2 updates. And I wish them luck, and I hope it works out really well, and I hope the community gives them a little bit of rope and understands that things change over time. That said, I think this is a potential cause for frustration, or source for frustration in the future. Communications quality. There have been a lot of communications mistakes and hang on. A lot of communications mistakes and incidents on our side recently. While mistakes will always happen, and we're all human, we acknowledge we need to improve in this area. We've launched a full internal review of all related processes. We want fewer mistakes, translation errors, more answers, and productive conversations. We want to improve the way you interact with us in any place, be it forums, customer support, Discord servers, or official streams. Great. Please get better at communication, Wargaming. You're bad at it, and you operate in tons of countries. What did they say? 4 or 5 countries earlier, all over the world with people from different backgrounds and different languages, and you're communicating to an audience of customers that is in tons of countries, way more than the number of countries you operate in. So yes, please get better at communications. And again, that reference to the English teacher that Sea Lord Mountbatten mentioned was being hired. This is something I think they're genuinely looking at. They take enough flack for design decisions. They shouldn't take flack for using poor grammar or selecting a poor word or whatever. So I really do hope that communications quality improves. They don't really talk here about how they are going to do that. They do say that they want to do that. and that might be all we get for now. So great. General transparency, we really need to work hard on it. On the one hand, we need to pay more attention to the community sentiment. On the other hand, we have to be more transparent and explain our positions. We will create a series of publications to make our development processes more transparent and show the logic behind what we do. For example, players did not understand why the latest torpedo bug took 2 updates to fix, while the CV bug, plane losses in 099, was fixed almost instantly. They are, in fact, very different. The CV bug was fixed quickly by adjusting some parameters, while the torpedo bug involved game logic. Even though it was technically fixed within a week, it had to go through all of the regular quality assurance processes. Deploying such a change, they didn't see translation errors. We're actually still dealing with them. Deploying such a change through a hotfix is extremely risky for the game. They should have been communicated transparently, and we will do our best to do so in the future. I can imagine. Well, hang on, let me back up. General transparency. We need to work hard on it, like they said. They need to pay attention to community sentiment, and they need to be more transparent and explain their positions. These things are items that are at odds with one another, and somewhere in the middle is the right choice. They need to know what the community's beef is, and they need to be able to explain why the community's beef doesn't make any sense in the event that it doesn't, or they need to explain what they're going to do about it, and so on, right? So they're going to do this series of publications to make the development process more transparent. I think that's great. I think that ties in very closely with the future roadmap. Is probably going to be part of the same tool to implement that, would be my guess if I were doing it. They'll create those series of publications. Players didn't understand why the torpedo bug took 2 updates to fix and the CV bug was fixed almost instantly. This is just the way software development works. I can speak at least somewhat to this. One of the things that's really nice about configuration tunability, like with the CV bug, you can tweak some parameters here. Those can often be tested quickly. But here's the thing about fixing a bug. You got to fix the bug. The dev who fixed it has to test it and make sure it's good enough to go to test. Testers who get it have to develop test cases that exacerbate the problem and then can go through and demonstrate that the problem exists here. And it exists under these conditions and under these conditions and under these conditions. Then they come over here and they have to take those same procedures that they developed, have somebody review them, make sure they're any good, run through the actual, they grab the test build, put it out on some test hardware somewhere, run through those test procedures on there and make sure that in every single case it was fixed. Every single case. And it is so easy for developers to introduce new bugs when they're trying to fix another one. It is very, very common. And so regressions, that's what we call that, is regression testing is really critical. Now that we fixed this bug, what else did we break? Do software developers go over there and just make things worse? So it takes a while to fix a good bug. Now, this explanation isn't very detailed on the CV bug. Maybe it was just like, oh, that should say 10 instead of 12. And they already have a series of tests developed, and they were able to run those through in an automated fashion to make sure the 10 or instead of 12 didn't break anything. But when you're actually modifying code and logic and physics simulations and all that stuff, rather than just adjusting a configuration item, this to me, again, as somebody who works in software, was very, very transparent. But I think for a lot of folks, they see a preference here for fixing CV bugs over these torpedo bugs. Scotta, his theory is that turning torpedoes for submarines is what broke the torpedoes for surface ships. And I would say with very, very strong certainty, I totally agree. We never had turning torpedoes before, and now all of a sudden, all of the torpedoes turned. Submarines definitely caused this problem in my mind. That said, bugs are going to happen, and we're going to fix them. And so they did, right? So they went and fixed this issue, and then they made sure it was good enough before they released it. We should actually be comfortable with this, and we just need to kind of understand that software fixes are a pain, and that the people who fix these things, they go home at the end of the day. That said, I do want to make sure that when the community finds a bug, I'd be really interested in Wargaming responding to that, especially something critical like this, right? I actually don't know where to submit a bug for World of Warships, and it should be transparent for most players. They should be really easy for us to submit a bug report, and I'm sure it's on the website. I could go find it, but in-depth communications and insights. When it's necessary, we will use more specifics and provide deeper explanations of our decisions. Now, this, of course, says when it's necessary, and they will be the arbiters of that. However, for example, when we implemented the system for clan versus clan ship bans, this helps us to keep the meta fresh and we want to tell you more about how and why we use it, as it's something our hardcore players are interested in. I'm very interested in the changes to clan battles and even ranked battles where they limit these ships and things like that. Although I don't think they've limited them in ranked. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, I'd love for them to explain their logic on this. Not only would we learn more about the game, but we would understand where they're coming from. I think the ship bans and stuff in the recent competitive seasons of clan battles have been pretty logical. I think they've been pretty obvious to the player base because we know what ships are overpowered. All this, of course, is our plan. We're looking for other points of interest and challenges. We want to show you our responsibility, care, and desire for the game by the way we communicate and through our actions to make the game better for everyone. This is a great sentiment. Please, Wargaming, please actually do it. I really, really hope so. A final word on passion and communication. While we're working hard to fix everything, we want to take a moment to address your passion and the way you communicate with each other. We know that you care about the game a great deal. And ask you to remember that there are people, community managers, support staff, developers, and volunteers who read your communications and posts wherever they may be made. While we as a company certainly need to work on the way we communicate with you, we ask that you treat the people you interact with fairly and with respect. Your voice will carry as much or more weight with them if you present your feedback and opinions in a reasoned and constructive way. This is a huge message, guys, and this is something I'm seeing even between players. You know, player 1 and player 2 are arguing in brutal language, and just really being uncool to each other. I love World of Warships, and most of the people I've met playing World of Warships have been pretty cool. There have been some folks who have been absolute tube steaks. I'm gonna go with that. They've been absolute tube steaks about this. Just a bunch of real wieners, and that is really disheartening. And I really want us to treat each other well. And then when we're working with Wargaming, the people who read all your messages are not the people who can fix everything. That said, I know that we need to get critical information, and I mean information about Wargaming and about World of Warships that is critical of the game to them. Let's do this respectfully. Let's do it well. Let's take care of each other. Let's make this a place where we can work well together. Now, I understand that some folks, and in some situations, we need to raise our voices in order to make sure that we're heard. And I totally respect that, and I can get behind it. I appreciate other content creators, like I'm going to use Flamu as an example, who are trying to keep the company honest by identifying stuff and doing all this tests. I saw a video with him in training rooms blowing up Japanese ships with crazy citadels that don't make any sense. You know, we need that kind of, that's like free testing. Wargaming needs to respond to that positively, and we need to provide that information. Sometimes we're going to be critical. That's great. I think we should be critical when things are broken or wrong. Keep that up, but let's be respectful, and let's try to make sure that we can communicate how serious we are about this feedback without being overtly cruel to the people who have to read all that stuff. Imagine if that was your job every day. Okay, I'm off my soapbox there. Like I said, be nice, take care of each other, you know, that kind of stuff. Let's continue that here. Guys, I really hope that some of the stuff that we see in this article, this post, comes to fruition for us. This is a really, really well-written thing they put together. It sets boundaries. They're not going to quit doing random boxes, but it gives us something too. We're going to tell you the drop rates. It's pretty clear about how, listen, we want to listen to you guys more and better, but we're also going to use data and our goals for the game, our designs for the game to make the future happen. I don't think they're off their rocker here. I think we as a community need to understand a few things, and they as a company, it sounds like they're willing to be really transparent with us, maybe even too transparent. All right, guys, that's about all I have for us today. This was kind of ad hoc and very one shot. This is a one take. I did not edit this. I'm going to throw my beginning and my end on it, and that's about it for YouTube. And hopefully it's something that was interesting. It's longer than I thought it was going to be, but I hope you guys enjoy giving this a watch, and I hope best for the future with World Warships. We'll see you guys in the next battle. Until then, take care of each other and be nice. See ya.